As Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are continuing our series on how each of the cognitive functions presents in each of the positions. So today that is for the Extroverted Intuition hero, which is ENFP and ENTP. So we have lots of resources on our channel for all of the things. For ENTPs, ENFPs, we've got playlists for all of the types. We've got playlists for all of the cognitive functions. All the things you could want to know, so go ahead and hop over there if you have questions about any of the things that we mentioned.
And as we say in the beginning of every single video, anyone can be anything. And while we do stand by that statement, wholeheartedly believe in it, the purpose of this series is to focus on the behaviors of each of the types while they're using this function in this placement. So for today, it's going to be the ENFPs and the ENTPs and the consistent behaviors that we see across the board when they're using their extroverted intuition. However, the main point, the one that we really want people to walk away with here, is that it's not necessarily the behavior that matters, it's the motivation behind the behavior. So while we will be giving out examples of these users, any users, it's not the behavior to focus on or the situation that we're going to be giving the example of, it's the motivation behind what they were doing.
So to add on to that, Carl Jung discusses something called, it's discussed in Carl Jung psychology, the ideal type average. So people go throughout their life and their type evolves. It doesn't change. But just because you are an ENFP and you don't relate to any of these, maybe, hopefully you relate to some, but you may not relate to any, that does not mean that you're not an ENFP or that we're giving you wrong information. Again, you have to look at the motivation, because if you can't relate to that, then you might want to reassess your type. But if you're a little older, you may have already overcome this and you may not remember. Should be real.
Yep.
Or if you're a little younger, you may not have gone into this aspect quite
Just
yet. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So the hero function is the lead function. It is the function that we get most of our identity from. And it's the one that develops first, unless you're inside out, but we will talk about that some other time. For extroverted intuition as the hero function, extroverted intuition is when you want to learn all the things and play with all of the ideas. It is getting as many ideas as you can, and when you interact with an environment, the environment you're trying to create is one in which ideas are shared. So for ENTPs and ENFPs, they like to share ideas, they like to talk about them, think about them, play with them, but they're not necessarily committed to just one set like an introverted intuitive would be. They kind of just are open to accepting all of the things, and then they drop it just as quickly sometimes.
Yep.
So they do all of the actions. So like they like to do things, but they're doing things for ideas. I think that's something else that's a really good difference between extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing. Extroverted intuition is doing all of the actions for ideas purpose, like for ideas' sake.
Yep.
They're not necessarily doing the actions to actually do things. That's more of an extroverted sensor type deal.
I like the way you said that. It's not necessarily like the physical experience, is like the
idea experience.
Yes.
Yeah. And they really like to know all of the possibilities. And I've said this before about Amanda and other extroverted intuitives. It's not necessarily the thing they like, it's the idea of the thing. So like they will talk about just like these crazy things, like crazy events that they're gonna do, or like crazy things that they like I've heard her have like numerous, like one time when she came back from her honeymoon, she and her husband were talking about moving to Alaska.
Yeah.
And like I didn't think that they were actually going to move to Alaska, but like the way she had thought about, she liked this idea.
Yeah.
And so what we did was for several like weeks, maybe even a month, the four of us all talked about what that would look like, and we just played with this idea, because for extroverted intuitives, playing with the idea is the thing.
We did talk about moving to Alaska, and we like playing with the ideas. So even if we don't ever move to Alaska, number one, we don't feel like a failure, which a lot of times if I was to have an idea like that and they got it in their head that this was happening, they would feel sad. They would feel kind of depressed and maybe like a failure. They would take it personally that their idea didn't actually come to fruition.
Right,
and
SE inferior.
Exactly, and SE is the same way. SE would say like, I'm going to do this, and then they would implement it and actually make it happen. It would physically, if this was an idea that they brought to life, it would happen physically in the moment. They would actually be packing up their house and moving to Alaska. And I just really want to talk about it and be like, how's this gonna go if we did it? Oh, we'd be like picturing our dream house and drawing it all out and all that stuff, and that's enough sometimes. I mean, there are certain things in my life that like I will actually make happen, but for the most part, it's gonna be like drawing it all up and be like, okay, that was fun, move on.
So extroverted intuition is often also considered very creative, and so this is not to say that other types can't be creative, but the definition of creative is doing unusual or weird or different things with something. And that is what extroverted intuition does. So they have earned that title of creative, just like NI has earned that title of being philosophical, because by definition, that is what they're doing. So like, I'm not saying creative to give them any sort of leg up or anything like that. It's just that they've earned that definition because they are literally, or that they've earned that qualifier because they are literally looking at things and discussing all of the possibilities with it for that NE hero as it presents in that position. Extroverted intuition, as it presents in the hero function, they want to collect a lot of ideas. So if they're engaging in their environment, they are looking for new ideas. They're interested in the idea behind the thing. So they might like a new object and they want to talk about the new things with that object. They might hear about a new TV show and they want to talk about all of the ideas presented in the TV show. They like to talk about their ideas. Whereas extroverted sensing does not always like to chit chat with people. Extroverted intuition likes to talk as long as it is about those ideas. Because if it's not something they're interested in, it's really hard to convince an extroverted intuitive that it matters.
Yep.
But then, so they collect all these ideas and then they dump a lot of them just as quickly. But one of the thing about them is that they pull it into their introverted thinking or introverted feeling process. So it's not like they're just completely open to everything. They do have other functions to balance it. But that is the danger of extroverted intuitive hero. There's a condition called hero inflation, which is when we rely too much on our hero function. Every type has it, but for an ENTP and an ENFP, this could look like learn all the things, do nothing. I just want to be so open that
I'm never going to actually choose to do anything. I'm just going to keep on taking in the information and never actually act on it.
So there is a condition called heroic inflation, and it's when any of the types lean into their dominant function, and they do that to the detriment of their other functions. So then they start ignoring their other things that are made to balance them. So for an ENTP or an ENFP, that becomes too much about ideas, and it's almost like analysis paralysis, because they are so focused on possibilities and they're afraid almost of missing the best one.
Yes.
That they don't move forward.
Yes, that's 100% it. You're going to keep on searching until you find the best one, and nothing is ever going to seem like the best, because how do you know that it is the best? You don't.
If you don't have a TI or FI to tell you. So that's why they really need to lean into their parent function when they are suffering this condition, because if they don't know the choice to make, that's when they need to spend time with their TI or their FI, and that will help them make that movement forward. So society needs a healthy hero NE, because extroverted intuitives are awesome and they have lots of good ideas, and one of the biggest things that I see with hero extroverted intuitives is they have 1,000 good ideas, probably. So some of them have more good ideas in like a year than like the rest of the people do their whole lives. But they have so much trouble doing them. And so they will have like all of these really cool things that they want to do, and then they never move forward. Because they are so focused on the idea of the thing. But they could be benefiting so many other people if they chose one and stuck it out. Because another thing that happens to them often is they'll have an idea, they pass it on to somebody else, and then they get bored.
We get so
somebody
bored.
else gets the credit.
And so then you're never seen as the one who actually you don't even get to be seen as the idea person, even though that's probably what you actually are, because you're not the one who got credit for it at the end of the day. And ideas, are great, but we do live in reality, and we do need practical situations to happen. So your ideas need to come to life if you're wanting to grow in your business or in your career or in your relationship or whatever. You can talk all you want, but if you don't actually sit there and act, it even though it's such a joy to hear your ideas and to talk about them and to be you and to be thinking about them, it means very little if you don't put it out into the world sometimes, which is hard for me to say because I'm the same way and I have all these ideas and I wish I could just get paid all day long for all the ideas that I could create for all the people, but that's just not how life works. So
being human is hard.
Hopefully this should make it just a little bit easier.
Thank you for watching our video, Amanda. Tell them what to do.
Like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and Discord, as well as YouTube, obviously. If this is your very first video that you're watching from TCH, then welcome, and thanks for joining us. Also, go watch our very first video then, called Welcome to Typecast Heroes, so you can learn all about this project and who we are and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then if you're interested in interviewing, please leave a comment below or message us on any of those platforms and we'll get back to you. Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.